Tonight on CFTK-TV, the BC Green Party have now lost their Green Party leader. There's increased border patrol at the BC and Washington border, and Canada signs a cooperation agreement with Poland.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and thank you for joining us here on CFTK-TV. We begin today with an announcement from the City of Prince Rupert, who have renewed their call for support from the community to find housing for those affected by the Sherbrooke apartment fire. The early morning fire that forced the nearly 100 residents from their homes on Christmas Day continues to leave some residents displaced over a month after the event, and the City of Prince Rupert renewed their call for community support, stating that there were remaining 17 or so people displaced from the fire. If anyone has a vacant unit that may be suitable, they're encouraged to reach out to the North Coast Transition Society's Housing Outreach Program at 250-627-8959, extension 24. We now shift our way over to the coast to the interior, where a public request has emerged from both the Smithers and Houston RCMP detachments that is asking for help to find a man that is currently wanted. Bobby Tyler Kwok is the name of the man who is wanted this time, and he's being sought out on an unendorsed warrant for failing to comply with a probation order. Kwok has been described as an Indigenous man who is around 5'10" and weighs close to 144 pounds, that has black hair as well as brown eyes. He's also considered to be dangerous, and the police are warning people to not approach him at this moment. Anyone who has useful information on where Kwok could potentially be located is asked to give a call to the Houston RCMP at 250-845-2204. And in provincial news, we now move to a quick story revolving around BC politics. That is Sonia Furstenau, who is now leaving the BC Green Party after claiming 2 seats in this past election. CTV's Penny Daflos has more on Furstenau's tenure as the leader of the Greens.
One of the most recognizable politicians in the province is leaving the spotlight.
It is very moving for me to think that people believed in me enough to come along on this magical mystery ride.
Sonia Furstenau is stepping down as leader of the BC Green Party after losing her seat in the fall election, and insists BC still needs a third party in the legislature.
Greens are more important than ever, and not having a binary two-party system is an important bulwark against that growing polarization. When you have somebody in the middle that's willing to work in a way that brings people together.
Furstenau did that, building bridges with New Democrats as well as the BC Liberal Party, and Mary Polak in particular.
Sonia is one of the very few who is just 100% absolutely authentic, genuine. Whether you agree with her or disagree with her, here is the kind of person we really want to see more of in whatever elected position is open.
Jeremy Valeria, one of 2 sitting Greens, will take over in the interim.
And I don't have plans to run for the leadership,
as plans are underway to elect a new face for the Greens' next iteration.
The leader needs to go out and build those relations outside the legislature. So I think that the BC Greens have a really good opportunity right now.
And so after 7 years as MLA, 4 of them as leader, Furstenau leaves with a record advocating for green energy and government transparency, investments in healthcare, and supports for the most needy.
We can't accept the denial of the serious and real challenges that we face collectively. A billionaire class turning into an oligarchy, deepening inequality, a loss of trust and faith in public institutions and democracy, and climate change and the chaos that stems from it.
A final admonishment as she leaves public life with the same eloquence that earned the attention and respect of so many British Columbians. Penny Daflos, CTV News, Vancouver.
Back to local news for the rest of this segment. After resolving the matter for the past few days, the City of Terrace was finally able to get the entirety of the city's water services running properly once again earlier this morning. Although the city has put out some advice saying that if any residents are still having issues with low water pressure, they can call the Public Works Department at 250-635-3467. The city also went out of its way to give everyone their thanks for being patient while this work was being fully completed. While the town of Smithers plans to hold an event discussing what people were hoping to see regarding local energy use, the Kitimat edition of this event is set to happen tomorrow night. And the official name of the event is the Kitimat Community Energy Conservation, and it will be held from 9:30 a.m. up until 11:30 a.m. at Kitimat's River Lodge Recreation Center inside of its activity room. And similar to the Smithers event happening in February, the conversation is intended to get answers from people about questions that are set to help create priorities for the community and to begin taking action towards the shaping of the future of how Kitimat will utilize its energy. Coming up next, new strategies are being taken to tighten up the BC and Washington border. Welcome back to CFTK-TV. Well, down in the Lower Mainland, increased security has become a regular occurrence at the British Columbia and Washington border. Both sides of the border are looking to make some changes to prevent anyone from crossing the border in an illegal manner. Here's Andrew Johnson of CTV News with more on the story.
3 people dressed in black hastily lay down planks ahead of a black pickup. Then one of them hops back in and hits the gas, smashing their way into Canada illegally.
I've never seen a vehicle try and get across before.
RCMP later arrested 5 people from Romania. U.S. Border Patrol says illegal crossings in this area are on the rise, so they're installing more of these boulders as well as concrete barriers to try to keep people in cars from charging across the line. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says in a statement they've been strategically installed in high traffic areas to deter unauthorized vehicle crossings and mitigate risks to local communities. These reinforcements are part of a broader strategy to address emerging security challenges along the northern border.
The driver carjacked the vehicle, is armed with a knife.
Security challenges like this. A wild scene at the nearby Peace Arch crossing just last month. The driver of a stolen pickup truck blew through the border into the U.S. and led police on a chase down the interstate highway. But people living along the Canadian side of the border say they noticed beefed up security before that.
In the last 2 or 3 months, there's definitely been a larger presence of the trucks on the American side for sure.
There's definitely increased presence of them trying to be behave. I don't know.
This is
scare
the border.
us.
On Monday, the Canada Border Services Agency shared it will no longer allow hikers to enter the country on this popular trail between BC and the U.S. A Washington state immigration lawyer believes we are seeing the Trump effect.
Here we are with the new Trump administration, and we're already seeing on both sides of the border barriers going up.
Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Surrey, BC.
And the District of Kitimat recently announced that they had made their 2025 budget project page publicly available on the Get Involved Kitimat portion of their website. The page in question is intended to give out information on how the budget process works, make key dates known, and to allow for the public to share what they think should be top priorities in the budget. The district also carries out their budget deliberations at their council meetings, so anyone looking to get involved with that can personally attend the meetings. Now moving on, we take a look at your local weather forecast for tonight and the week ahead. The North Coast should have cloudy conditions with a 60% chance of rain, showers, or flurries this evening, but it should clear up sometime after midnight. Winds should be coming from the northwest at 20 kilometers per hour, increasing to 40 at times. Any low will be -3 and the wind chill will be -5 overnight. In Terrace and Kitimat, it should be cloudy today with a 60% chance of flurries, becoming partially cloudy after midnight, and winds should be coming from the south at 20 kilometers per hour, also increasing to 40 in the evening, along with a low of -5 and a wind chill of -7. The Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should be cloudy with a 40% chance of flurries overnight, with winds up to 15 kilometers per hour, and the low will be -9 with a wind chill of -12. On to your weekly weather forecast. The North Coast should see a pretty sunny week overall, with a drop in temperatures starting tomorrow at 1 degree during the day. There's a chance of flurries on Friday, but other than that, expect a pretty clear week overall. The high will be 1 degree tomorrow, and the low will be -12 on Sunday night. In Terrace and Kitimat, expect some snow for the next couple of days starting tomorrow night, but then we should see a drop in temperatures and see the conditions clear up starting on Sunday. The high will be -2 tomorrow, and the low will be -12 on Saturday and Monday night. Finally, the Bulkley Valley will see snow and flurries up until Saturday night, with clearing conditions starting on Sunday. There is also a steep drop on Friday, going from -4 to -13. The high will also be -3 tomorrow, and the low will be -23 on Sunday night. Now we take a look at your Northwest Roadside Report. For more updates, make sure to check out drybc.ca. On Highway 16, there are fog patches from Skeena to Doreen, compact snow from Doreen to Walcott, and slippery sections throughout. Highway 37 sees fog patches between Terrace and Kitimat, slippery sections from Kitwanga to the Yukon border, and there is a travel advisory between Mesiat and Junction and Bell 2. Highway 37A has shoulder maintenance near Bear Glacier Park. Travel advisory for limited visibility with heavy snowfall and slippery sections. Highway 118 has slippery sections. The Nishka Highway has fog patches and water pooling, and Telegraph Creek Road has compact snow throughout. These are what the cameras were looking like from around the Northwest. Still to come, Prime Minister Trudeau signs a cooperation agreement with Poland. Hello again. Well, we are now days away from knowing whether or not tariffs will be implemented at the Canada and U.S. border. While Canada says they are ready to implement their own tariffs to combat President Donald Trump's demands, a number of stimulus packages may be handed towards Canadian businesses if Trump does go through with the tariffs. Anna McMillan from CTV News has more on the matter.
The White House is staying true to the tariff threat from U.S. President Donald Trump.
The February 1st date for Canada and Mexico still holds.
Meaning Canada is days away from learning whether Trump is bluffing or if his administration will make good on a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada.
We need our markets outside Canada desperately, and of course our next door neighbor is the easiest one.
That commercial fisherman owns Finest at Sea in Victoria and expects several of his boats will be tied up if the tariffs are imposed, leaving dozens of people without work.
People do the repairs on the boats and the trucking and the processing and refrigeration people, and it's multi-level besides just the boat people.
The federal government is planning a stimulus package to help businesses and workers. Details are scant, but sources say it could be comparable to pandemic-level relief.
Who knows if an aid package is put forth by this minority government, whether or not it's supported. It could trigger an election, and so then it doesn't get passed out anyways.
Jeff Bromley represents 14,000 forestry workers in BC and across the country.
The immediate access to EI without a waiting period has to be first and foremost.
BC's premier says his government will hold the feds to their commitment to support Canadians.
We are tough. There is no free lunch here in Canada or in British Columbia.
He says the province will work with Ottawa to meet and match every harm inflicted on British Columbians. Anna McMillan, CTV News.
And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wrapped up a whirlwind trip in Poland yesterday, where he signed a nuclear energy cooperation agreement between the two countries. CTV's Colton Prale is in Warsaw with the latest reports.
In one of his final international trips as Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau had his eyes on bolstering Canada's ties to Eastern Europe and highlighting the need for strong allies as democracies around the world face growing threats. Two countries facing significant threats from nearby neighbors. Standing shoulder to shoulder, Justin Trudeau and Donald Tusk spent the afternoon warning about the rise of threats to democratic institutions around the globe. Tusk specifically highlighting the growing popularity of the German AfD party and other far-right politicians, calling them especially dangerous, adding there is no greater alarm bell. It's a message echoed by Trudeau.
The warning signs that should be flashing bright red in every democracy around the world right now, about the rise of age-old hatreds and intolerances that are beginning to get more and more purchase, not just on the fringes of the political spectrum, but towards the center as well.
Those threats underscored as both leaders reiterated the importance of a strong NATO and what Tusk called the many alarming signs they see around the world. But as Donald Trump pushes allies to spend 5% of GDP on defense, Poland, the alliance's most prolific proportional spender, didn't call on others to hit the same target. It was about more than just military alliances. Today, Trudeau announced a new nuclear energy agreement that will allow Canada's nuclear industry inroads to the Polish economy and ensure they don't have to rely on Russian resources. Colton Prale, CTV News, Warsaw.
And we have another story on a woman who is in need of physical and mental health support down on Vancouver Island, who is yet another person without a doctor as the shortage continues here in British Columbia. CTV's Andy Garland has the rest.
Lake Cowichan resident Valerie Hodgins recently found out she'll be losing her family doctor.
Critical that I have a doctor, and I'm going to be without one.
The 67-year-old has complex health needs that require monthly visits to her family physician.
I don't just have mental health issues, I have physically things wrong with me, and that's why I need a general practitioner.
Notices have gone up at Lakeside Medical Clinic, informing patients that the only two doctors in the community will soon be closing their practices.
Come June, the population of 6,500 people around the West Cowichan area will have 0 doctors.
Rebecca McGonigal is also feeling uneasy about losing her doctor. Her son, 6-year-old Asher, has Down syndrome.
We need to see the doctor on a regular basis, at least once a month, sometimes 2 or 3 times. So it's pretty detrimental to my family.
People are worried about their health needs.
Lake Cowichan's mayor has been inundated with calls on what can be done. One of them even came from the health minister, Josie Osborne herself.
Who's a small-time mayor previously, and she is aware of the concerns.
So I want the mayor to understand that I hear, that I understand the challenge that it faces, and that I am here to help.
A new urgent care clinic opening in Dunkard later this year could alleviate some of Lake Cowichan's healthcare needs. The shift now moves to attracting new doctors to the area.
These are amazing communities to live in, and the recreational opportunities, for example, in Lake Cowichan are just tremendous.
We will do whatever is in our toolbox to accommodate healthcare needs of our citizens.
Innovative ideas to meet those needs will be on the agenda at tonight's council meeting. Andy Garland, CTV News, Lake Cowichan.
Now we take a look at the stock market, where we have a mix of everything today. The Canadian dollar is down about 0.2 of a penny. The price of gold is down $1.10. Oil is down $1.15. Natural gas is up 5 cents, and aluminum is down $46. In Toronto, the TSX is up about 54 points. The Venture Index is up 4. In New York, the Dow Jones is down about 137, and NASDAQ is down 101. Still ahead, mass deportation on illegal criminals continues in the United States. Welcome back to our final segment here on CFTK-TV. Well, south of the border, President Donald Trump is creating one of the biggest deportation initiatives in U.S. history. And Joy Malbin from CTV News has more on this developing story.
President Donald Trump's new Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem posting video of immigration raids in New York, arresting a suspected migrant gang member in the Bronx, wanted in connection with a home invasion in Colorado. Noem declaring dirtbags like this will continue to be removed from our streets. This show of force, mass deportations of illegal migrants, sometimes shackled and herded into military planes, are images Trump wants the world to see. The White House says so far 3,500 arrests have been made, but along with violent criminals, undocumented migrants are being rounded up and deported too.
He is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal.
This as the Trump administration ordered a freeze on all federal assistance, grants, loans, and other federal money that could affect millions of Americans. A government memo cites foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, diversity programs, and the Green New Deal, putting a temporary freeze on any program affected by Trump's executive orders as he sets about remaking government.
This is a dagger at the heart of the average American family in red states, in blue states, in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas. It is just outrageous.
All of it creating confusion and outrage, and yet another court challenge to Donald Trump's executive actions as he flexes his new presidential powers. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
They're called a man's best friend for a reason, and so many families in this country will do anything for the health and well-being of their pet dogs. But unfortunately, getting a pet is not always the easiest task, with scams and irresponsible breeders hoping to take advantage of the love for animals. And a new app being developed in Newfoundland is trying to take a bite out of that problem. Here's CTV's Garrett Berry, who has our final story of the day.
At just 2 weeks old, little Beanie spends most of her time with her eyes closed. Still, it won't be long before this litter is off to new families.
We start to see personality come between 4 and 6 weeks, and it's pretty set by about 7.
As a small-scale breeder, Sherry Morris takes a whole lot of pride in her animals, doing everything she can to ensure they go to a well-matched home.
What we hope is that we have a family that when you come and talk and you spend a half an hour or an hour seeing the puppies and talking to me, that you have a feel-good feeling.
Others in the pet industry put money way ahead of welfare. Puppy mills, where female dogs are bred too often, still vex advocates across the country. And full-blown scams are costing Canadians a total of almost $1 million every year, according to the latest data from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. James Gray is building a plan to combat some of that. He's getting ready to launch a web app matching buyers and sellers and providing each side with way more information.
Understand, yes, this person does these health tests, they're reputable.
One key feature would allow money from a buyer to be held by the payment processor, so the seller knows for sure that it's there, but the money would only actually be finally sent when both parties are satisfied with the transaction.
So there's individuals that pretend to be fake breeders, and they ask for a deposit, you pay the deposit, and then all of a sudden they disappear.
Morris is working with 2 similar platforms. She says it's early, but they show promise in making transactions more transparent. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
And that will be all for our cast tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a good night.